Okay, so I mounted the motherboard in there, so that was just screwing those screws in. So now the next thing I'm going to do is work on the power supply. So this is the power supply, is what it looks like. This is where the plug, so you see on the back of the computer, it's got the plug, the power switch. And what you'll notice, this is called a modular power supply. I really like these because you can work outside the computer, plug in what you need, and then when you go to install it, I'm just going to go in and install it and screw it in. And I don't have to do all the wiring in, in a tight spot in the back of the case, so it's just a preference. And then there's a fan, so you'll notice the common theme is keeping things cool. So this fan, in the case, there's a vent at the bottom, so the fan goes down because I think it sucks. I don't know if it exhausts or if it pulls air in to keep the power supply cool. But I'll also have a fan in the basement of the case to kind of help also cool the power supply. So the power supply comes with all kinds of cables. So on the motherboard, you'll see on this particular MB stands for motherboard. This actually plugs into the motherboard, but this end plugs into the back of the power supply. So you'll see it's kind of this is why the modular, hopefully the light is good. The modular is really easy because this, for me, it makes it much easier. You just kind of snap that in there. It only fits the one, so you can't get these mixed up. So that's, and it even says motherboard on the back of the supply. So that's the motherboard. Then you need power for the CPU. So on the motherboard, there's a port for power for the CPU. So this particular motherboard only has it has 12 pins, but you'll notice, hopefully this is on camera, that the pins, so these are the ones, there's two cables. These plug into the back of the power supply, and then these, you'll notice they're split. So if I need 8, I'll use that. If I need 12, I'm going to use 3 of them, and then this one is just going to be dangling because that motherboard only requires 12 pins. Some require 16 pins, so they give you the flexibility to use for multiple motherboards. So on the back here, you'll see there's a CPU 1 port and a CPU 2 port. So I need both because I have 12 ports. So I'm going to plug one cable into this port, which is CPU, labeled CPU, and then this one is the other one labeled CPU. So that's pre-wired. Then the other device that needs power is the video card. So this is a VGA. That's the video graphics array. So this power supply, you can build computers that have 4 video cards, or ones that require more power. So it depends on the card you have, how many cards you're using. And I'm only using one card. The card that I checked the card, it only uses 8 pins. One of my older computers I built actually had 10 pins, so I needed a second cable just for the one video card. But this one is just 8 pins, so I only need one. So this is VGA, so I'm going to plug that into the VGA 1. And then if I add additional video cards, I got space for that. So that's going to be that. And then the rest of it is cables for drives and peripherals. So these are SATA. This is for hard drives. So you'll see on one power cable, you can plug in 1, 2, 3 drives. So they give you 3 of these cables. I'm just going to plug all of them in because I did build one computer and I used the bare minimum, and I actually wanted one extra one because of cable routing. I couldn't reach, so I needed to add a cable, and I wound up having to plug it in a really tight spot. It was really difficult. So this time I'm just going to plug them all in. If I don't use them, it doesn't matter. They'll just sit there. So there's 3 of these SATA cables, and I got SATA 1, SATA 2, SATA 3, and I'm going to plug them all in. And then when I go to wire the computer, this is actually backwards, it'll actually be really easy. And then whatever I don't use, I just stuff in the basement for future use. So that's SATA 3, SATA 2, and then SATA 1. So now, and there's also another port for peripheral I'm not using. If you had some other device, I'm not using that. I'm not using the video card, so there, I'm all done. So you can see this is why it's nice to get the modular power supply, because then you just plug everything in you need, and then you can install the box. So I'll do that. So I'll pull the case over. So my fan is down, and here's my spot for my power. So I can just slide this in, and then